Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Moonday Musings. So, I'm speaking to you today on Monday, the 9th of January, after a really intense full moon over this weekend. So, we had our first full moon of this new year, 2023, on Friday, but quite late at night over here in the UK on Friday. And so I feel that this full moon has kind of journeyed with us through the rest of the weekend as well. As I have been talking to people over the last few days, it really does seem to have hit everybody quite hard, this particular full moon. I feel like I was expecting that because I know that these full moons in Cancer can be very, very emotional. But with it being within that portal of the 12 omen days, so that liminal space where the veils between worlds are believed to be thin, the synchronicity with the full moon happening on Epiphany, the end of the Oracle days, Women's Little Christmas, La Befana's Day, all these amazing titles for this very, very special day. I sort of felt like it was going to be an intense one. So I want to talk a little bit in this episode today about working with the after effects of a full moon. We can take this generally speaking and think about this for every full moon, but particularly I want to talk about this being the first full moon of the new year. So my personal feeling with this full moon, I found it really difficult, if I'm honest. There's been a lot of tears this weekend. We actually lost someone in our family last week on Monday quite suddenly, and we were all quite shocked and obviously really, really sad. And so I know that that is in there for me with this full moon, but it's also brought up a lot of other things as well, and there's been a lot of tears. So I've been thinking about this in preparation for this week's episode, and for me it felt like this full moon was the opportunity, whether we like it or not, to really process last year. That's what I felt like it was doing. So even though it's taken place at the start of a new year, the moon isn't really aware of calendar dates, in the sense of we're like, this is the new year. That's just something that we have assigned. That there is a feeling, I feel anyway, that we're still in that liminal space and still processing 2022. And so that was my feeling with this full moon. And then also from speaking to other people too, that felt like that, like there's just a lot of stuff coming up, thinking about last year, all that we've been through, and then a lot of tears. Everyone I've spoken to are like, I've just been crying. So tears and crying are incredibly healing. And so I would say as well, like, just try if you can to just let that be. Like, there's this amazing section in Women Who Run with the Wolves about the power in tears. And sometimes we are crying and sobbing and we don't even particularly know why. And I feel like that's a good thing to just get it out and let it move and let it be shifted. So with this full moon, and I would say this with any full moon, and those of you that come to my workshops or are with me in my online programs know that I don't teach full moons in the sense of they're a time for releasing and letting go. It doesn't make sense to me energetically, because for me and how I like to teach working with the moon, full moons are revealing. So they're showing us what needs healing, what needs tending to, what needs love, what needs forgiveness. They're a time, if you have the opportunity to really sit with the full moon, which I did on the weekend, mainly because I just needed some time out. We're going through a toddler sleep regression at the moment, and teething and boundary pushing, and it was pouring down with rain, and I went and sat in the conservatory just to listen to the rain. And I lay on the sofa in there, and then I could just see the the January full moon, and it looked absolutely glorious. But the sky was so bright, so light, and I kept thinking, like, this is it, this is the energy. It's not a time, I don't feel, for letting go and release. It's a time to allow things to be illuminated. And that is what's happening with our emotions. They are being brought up to the surface. And the moon is almost saying, look, here is the stuff that you need to see. You need to see this so that you can pay attention to it and so that you can do the work. Then what I would say is, as we move through the waning weeks, that is when we can process what has come up for us with that full moon. And then at the end of the cycle, so your kind of last week of the waning moon into the dark moon, that's your time for release. That's your time for letting go. And then we're doing that in preparation of the new cycle. So for this month, that is going to begin with the new moon in Aquarius. That's our next lunar cycle. So, of course, there's no right or wrong way to work with the moon. I talk about this so often in magical practice and your spiritual practice. It's got to really work and feel right for you. After many, many years of reading many, many books about the moon and working with cycles, it didn't sit with me about this whole releasing with the full moon. So I went off on my own journey with that, and now I've created this way of working, and it works really well for me. And often when I share it, it makes sense to other people too. But as I'm saying all of this, if you feel like, no, like for me, the full moon is really cleansing and releasing, then that is your practice. We are all going to relate to every lunar cycle and every season differently because of our own personal power times within the month. So, there's so much going on in each individual. Our birth chart, the time that we were born, the phase of the moon when we were born. People who are menstruating, if you menstruate with a full moon, it's going to feel releasing. If you menstruate with the dark moon, that's going to feel releasing. So, there's so many layers to this, and it's not fixed either, because we are cyclical, we change. And so you may find that these practices work for a while and then you shift them and you change them. So it really needs to make sense to you. It needs to work for you. But I'm sharing from my point of view and what I find helpful. And that creates a really nice introduction to this week, the waning moon. So I always find this first few days after a full moon, what we refer to as the waning gibbous moon. So when you look up at the sky, it still appears like a full moon, and it's a little bit like a little bit of a lunar hangover, if you like. So if you've been crying all weekend, if you feel like you've been, I don't know, angry or unsettled or all this stuff coming up, I would really, really give yourself time and space this week to just let all of that land. Think about it. Okay, why was I so upset? Okay, why has that bothered me so much? Okay, I need to pay attention to this, and I need to maybe journal about that, and then next week when we get into the more of that potent waning energy, we can talk about releasing and letting go, and then eventually entering into that state of rest with the dark moon. We've got a lighter energy to work with at the beginning of the week. The moon is in Leo today and tomorrow. So Leo is a bright light sign ruled by the sun, and that's a really nice opposition to the Cancer moon ruled by the moon, bringing all of those emotions up. And so it's a nice couple of days to kind of be in your masculine energy a little bit more, in that solar energy a little bit more, focusing on doing things, being creative. It's really beautiful weather here today, and I find that really really wonderful to connect with that Leo energy. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be in the sign of Virgo. Really lovely, grounded earth sign and organized sign, practical. It's got that wonderful balance, Virgo, between spirituality, archetype of the priestess, but also very, very organized and very, very practical. Might be a nice couple of days to, if you've had a bit of a with the full moon, to think I need to get back on track. I want to write some lists. I want to do some journaling. I want to get all my beautiful new stationery out, you know, and give yourself some time to kind of feel that you're getting back to yourself. Thursday, we've got Mars stationing direct. Now, I always find that when we're getting to the end of a planetary retrograde, the energy is intensified. And I have really felt that over the weekend. I have been really angry. I'm going to be honest and admit that. Really irritable, really quick to get angry, and more angry than I would be about things that don't normally bother me. And I've just been like furious. And then when I was looking this week, I thought, oh, that's interesting. So Mars is that hot-headed planet. It's our passions, it's our desires, but it can also manifest as anger and irritation and frustration. And so that is stationing direct. But as I said, when planets are stationing direct, there's this like last hurrah of that retrograde energy. And again, bringing stuff up, bringing things to the surface. So that's been like an interesting combination with the full moon in Cancer, that water sign, and then fiery Mars retrograde as well. Friday is a special day. Friday is the 13th. And there's a lot of folklore, modernized folklore, that suggests that Friday the 13th is an unlucky day. Actually, it's incredibly sacred and special, and it's become very, very special to witches, to people who really follow kind of goddess spirituality. So 13 is a sacred number in the divine feminine. It's a very sacred number in the witchcraft movement as well. And Friday itself was always revered as the day of the goddess. It's ruled by the planet Venus, and historically this was the day that kind of priestess would gather in temple worship. So when you get when you get Friday the 13th, it just intensifies the beauty of that day. So we've got the moon moving into Libra. Libra is also ruled by Venus and is feminine and harmonious and fair, and that kind of breath of fresh air. It's an air sign. So make a note of that for this week. Do something beautiful for yourself Friday the 13th. Yes, do something magical, do something beautiful to honor that beautiful divine feminine energy, and also reclaim the day. So all the superstitions about it being unlucky are all that kind of patriarchal narrative of changing things that used to be sacred and special related to either witchcraft or divine feminine spirituality, or both, and making them into something unpleasant or scary or something to be feared. So I would also invite you to reclaim that day, wherever you are, whoever you are, as the little fingers up to the patriarchy and to those narratives that we can really work now to dissolve away. Saturday is the final quarter moon, so that's your signal. Remember that the final quarter moon is that signal to make your preparations for winter, for lunar winter. So the final bit of the waning moon and then into the dark moon, which is going to be next week. So get your affairs in order, get your snack cupboard stocked up, look at your diary for next week. Have you overcommitted? How are you going to feel next week? Could you scale back a little bit? Have you got time in there for yourself, for rest, for processing what we've talked about today, releasing, cleansing, letting go? Yeah, so have a look at your diary, have a look at your snacks, and yeah, make your preparations for lunar winter. We're finishing this week Sunday with the moon moving into Scorpio, which can be emotional again. It's another water sign. So being aware of that, because we're going to be moving into that low energy point, and then Sunday into Monday is going to be Scorpio energy, which again can be bringing up that kind of Mars energy again, also Pluto energy. So karmic stuff that we don't always like to think about or look at can start to be brought up to the surface. But it's also a beautiful sign for working with magic, and for listening and tuning into your intuition. We'll talk a little bit more about Scorpio moon next Monday, because we'll be beginning the week with the moon in Scorpio. Okay, so I hope that will make sense and gives you some insight into working with the after effects of a full moon. So continuing on as well, seasonally speaking, with this idea of gentle January. People that I've been speaking to, so I ran a workshop on Saturday called Gentle January, and we talked all about this, so seasonal self-care. And a lot of us were kind of discussing this pressure at this time of year to have it all figured out, and to be really in that yang energy, and to be dieting and exercising. And it's all so out of tune. I know I've said this a few times the last few weeks, but I'll continue to say it. You know, take your cues from nature. We are still in winter. It's a time of rest and healing and preparation too. So I cut out the other day, let me see, I'll probably be one of those comedy moments now where I can't find the quote. Here we go, got it straight away. So winter is a season of recovery and preparation. So I really love that quote, which is why I've cut it out into my diary. And the other thing that I wanted to share with you for this week in terms of preparation. So there's not a great deal to do at this time of year in the garden. We're talking a lot about garden magic of course, in the Green Witches Year, my 12-month course, which is almost going to close for enrollment. So if you're feeling the call, please come and join us. Enrollment is going to close at the end of this month, the end of January. But yeah, every month we're looking at garden magic and things to do in the garden, things to look out for in nature, ways to connect to the natural world all around us. And yeah, January, there's not a huge amount to do. We can look after the birds, we can tidy the garden, we can clean our kind of plant pots and stuff ready for the spring. But one thing that is really fun to do at this time of year is to order your seed catalogues. So I very, very happily went online on Friday, and ordered a couple, maybe 2 or 3 seed catalogues. And my first one arrived this morning in the post. So I haven't had a chance to properly look through it. That's going to be with a cup of tea this afternoon. But you know, it just a really nice thing to do is to flick through and think about what you would like in your garden this year, even if it's a windowsill garden with potted things and that's what you've got access to. There's still loads of ideas in here. And what I'm going to do is cut things out and put them in my gardening journal so that I've got an idea. And then what you can also do is then research, you know, when to start planting things, how to prepare for planting these things, and where you would like them in your garden. So this can be a really, really beautiful way of connecting to nature in the winter months when there's not a huge amount to do outside, but let yourself really, really think about what you want to surround yourself with this year. And then, of course, you can begin to order your seeds. The other thing that I am currently doing is creating, so I've made it, but I need to beautify it and organize it a bit more. But I've made a seed box for the year, so it's got sections for each month, and then I've put some seeds in that I either bought last year or actually harvested from my own garden. So I'll share that with you when it's finished. But you know, there's things that can be done that can really warm your heart and lift your spirits at this time of year, that don't necessarily involve being outside in the garden when it is chucking it down or it's really cold, or there just simply isn't a huge amount to do. One thing that I would recommend doing, though, to really help you connect and tune in with nature at this time of year, and remembering that you are part of this nature, is to just sit in, if you don't have a garden, obviously finding somewhere to sit outside. So it might be your local park, or a little sit spot that you have, where you can just really look at the lack of action at this time of year. So I've been doing this a lot. I mean, my daughter Orla loves playing outside, and she loves being out in the cold and the rain. She's perfectly content. And so she's happy for me to bundle her up in her snowsuit, and she'll kind of potter around. And then I just sat there the other day with my cup of tea, and I just looked, you know, at the dead leaves and the lack of plants and the things that are kind of decomposing. And I really found it helpful to just go, yeah, like this is the time of rest and of transformation, because that dying process, it isn't a real death. It's a shift of energy, a change of energy, things being transformed into something else, into the soil that all my spring flowers are going to immerse from. And actually, the closer that I looked in the garden, I have seen the first signs of spring, and it filled my heart with joy. And I think it was the day after we'd lost my uncle, and I was out in the garden, and I saw the bluebell shoots coming up, and it was really moving, because I just thought, you know, in these times of grief and sorrow, I find nature always helps us to see that life goes on. You know, the wheel turns, the cycle continues. And so I saw these bluebell shoots, and bluebells are my favorite. They're one of my favorites. And I thought, oh, how wonderful. There's 3 little tufts of those. And my hellebores are just starting to flower as well. So that's exciting. And there's some other green shoots rising, and I've got no idea what they are. And that's the other thing that I love about this time of year, because I don't know what's worked from last year. I can't always remember what I planted. There's a couple of things I'm like, I have no idea what you're going to be. And it's wonderful. I remember in February last year, I did this every morning as a little kind of ritual. I'd go out with my cup of tea while everybody was still in bed, and I'd look and I think, oh, there's another one. I don't know what you are, or what are you going to be, or you look interesting. And just this real kind of deep connection with the garden gave me so much comfort. So I hope that's helpful to you and inspiring to you. Couple of other things to share with you before I say farewell for this week. I've pulled us an oracle card. I don't think I did this last week, so I've gone back to using the illustrated herbary by Maya Toll. It's my favorite. And our card, our herbal ally for this week, the message is from rosemary for remembrance. So let me share that with you from page 156. Okay, so rosemary is a smell of deja vu and the after breath of nostalgia. Her gift is the faint scent that teases and vanishes, leaving you longing for something that you can't quite name, with memories that crest and crash, pulling you gasping into their undertow. In Victorian times, rosemary was said to say, "Remember me." This is but a small part of her magic. Rosemary can ease remembrance, softening sharp edges, or she can dredge the distant past, pulling on your DNA to bring forward the longings of lineage. Crush the leaves, hold them to your nose. The past is encoded into our cellular memory. Rosemary whispers, sink into the knowledge that lives in your bones. Let memory rise up from the body of your being. So I love that. I'm going to place the card on my altar for this week. And I just bought some rosemary to plant. I've got a little herb garden, which is all potted. I've moved my herb garden from the back garden to the front because Bowie, the wolf dog, keeps weeing on everything. So very, very magical. So yeah, it's all in the front garden now. And I was missing rosemary because I had this glorious rosemary bush from the last house. And it was my favorite. And then we moved here and I planted it in the herb patch. And I was so excited because I thought it's going to get even bigger. And then Bowie weed on it one too many times and it died. So I finally got myself a new one. So I'm going to go and grab some later and have a cup of tea and really sit with that beautiful message. Oh yeah, so last thing then before I go, I'm not finished yet, but it's just my invitation to you if you like to journal, bullet journal. I'm just doing my pages for January. So I've got, what have I got? Forest. I feel really, really called to the forest at the moment. We just found an amazing forest about 15 minutes from us that we went to last week, and we've all three of us fallen in love with it. So yeah, forest bathing, more time in the woods is what I need and want this month. Lots of cups of tea and books, intention setting. Owl has been very, very present at the moment, particularly over the last over the 12 oracle days. I've seen an image of an owl every single day, and that was the same last year too. So owl is very, very present. This image here, I've got my women's circle facilitator training starting in just a couple of weeks. So yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. If anybody is interested in training to facilitate women's circles, moon circles, I'm offering my 12-week online training on starting on the weekend of the 22nd of January. It's really reasonably accessibly priced. I've kept the prices really low the last few years because times have been really tough. And I know a lot of people who want to do this work and feel really called to do group work. And I've done this, I think this will be my 5th round of training, which is just amazing to say. Actually, I feel really proud of that, and then really proud of the people that have come through the training and seeing all the amazing things that they are now doing. So a lot of the training, a lot of the 12-week journey is a journey into self. We do a lot of stuff to do with our own birth charts, our own connection to goddess. So the people that can hold space the best, I always feel, are the people that do the work and do the work on themselves. So we do a lot of stuff to really like retreating inwards and tending to our own self-care and our own spiritual practice first. And then of course we go through all the other stuff, like how to hold space, how to set up sacred space, how to create themes. This is the biggest thing that people ask me about, is they might have familiarity actually of holding space and already doing group ceremonies or group activities, but they struggle with creating a theme. We do a lot of work on that in this course. And then we go through all the other stuff like social media, marketing, how to build your community, how to stay in your own lane and not get distracted by what other people are doing. Imposter syndrome, we talk about that a lot as well. So yeah, we start on the 22nd with our opening circle. The way that it works is there's a lot of the course to just travel through on your own. going through the course notes, watching videos, journaling, doing kind of bits of homework and things like that. And then we are gathering via Zoom for circles together where I'll be going through stuff, but we'll also be able to share and talk about things. Those circles go for about 2 hours. And I think we've got 4 or 5 of those live circles within the 12 weeks. It's $300 for the course, and payment plans are available to split that into 3 monthly payments. So yeah, I'm so excited. I've already got the most wonderful group formed, but I would love, anybody who's feeling the call, come and join us. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to offer this training again this year, just because we've got lots of in-person stuff happening throughout the rest of the year. Summer gets really busy with festivals and workshops and things like that. And so it may well be that I don't offer this again until next January. So yeah, if you would like to join us, I will put the link in the show notes below. And also just to let you know that I have started a new set of videos, which I've had some really wonderful feedback from already. Thank you to those of you who've commented or messaged me. But it's a whole series that I'm going to be working on, sharing grimoire practices. So tutorials on how to create beautiful pages, on ideas of what to even grimoire about. And of course, we're doing this a lot in the Green Witches year, but I wanted to offer stuff for everybody as well, so that you can join in those creative practices if you so choose. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet on YouTube, please do. And then you'll be notified every time I release a new video. And this will continue to be a mixture of these podcasts, yoga stuff. I'm hoping to do some yoga videos again. I know a lot of people have asked me. There's the grimoire series as well, and there'll be lots of other things as I move through the year. So thank you so much for watching or listening. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Please be kind with yourselves this week. That was an intense full moon, and starting the year is not easy anyway. So yeah, be gentle with yourselves, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. All right. Lots of love, everyone.